this morning, and thank you to the city of Harlingen for hosting us and allowing us to do this here. Le doy las gracias a todos por estar aquí con nosotros esta mañana. I want to discuss some legislative updates and some funding that we have for projects here in South Texas, and looking forward into the fall, trying to avoid government shutdown in October that we have looming over us with 12 appropriation bills that are still being negotiated between the House and the Senate. But I'm going to begin by talking some of the bills that I've personally filed with Republican colleagues on the other side of the aisle, and that are really important to our region. One of them is the Safe Zone Act that I've been talking about here for a while. We're dealing with migration on our border, and what the Safe Zone Act does, it creates processing centers at least 1,500 miles from our southern border, where asylum seekers must, under the law, show up there and be processed at that juncture. And if they're going to be allowed to fly into the country, they could do it. They could do it from there. We now have bipartisan support. We're talking to the administration. They are doing something similar, but it's not as efficient and it's not the law. So we continue having folks showing up to the border and even not even going through the application process. So we hope that by next year we can actually have a full functional system in a third country where we can process asylum seekers with U.S. and partnerships with the countries that we do so. And I think that will certainly take a lot of pressure off our southern border, and it eliminates the cartels out of the equation. It allows people to travel safer. And at the end of the day, we have to look at ways for people to come to this country in an orderly way. Clearly, we have a labor shortage. And if you follow most of the migrants who come into this country, within about 2 or 3 weeks, they have been absorbed into our economy. Which takes me to my next bill, which I'd like to talk about is called the HIRE Act, which I filed with my Republican colleague, Tony Gonzalez, here from Texas, which allows more guest worker programs for workers to come in temporarily on 9 to 15-month rotations. We have 150 fishing boats that are parked out here with no workers, so the problem is widespread. It's in our agriculture industry, it's in our fishing industry, it's in manufacturing, it's in construction, it's in the hospitality business. We are at 97% employment in this country. And I believe just anyone who wants a job can find one. But in order to continue to grow our economy, we need labor. And I have farmers in my district that are losing their harvests on the ground because of lack of labor. This bill would eliminate some barriers and allow a smoother process to be able to hire people temporarily. This is also a bipartisan bill. It has support from both sides of the aisle. And it has some folks who are against it on both sides of the aisle as well. Just anything with an I in front of it is always complicated. But these are proposals that make a lot of sense, and it's issues that need to be resolved and for the American people, and certainly for folks who are living on the southern border dealing with migration the way we do. I think everybody can agree that an orderly process makes a lot of sense. So getting into the third bill, the legislative bill that we filed is the Gold Card Act. And some of you may have heard of it. I filed this with Congressman Burgess. And with the Gold Card Act, it limits times it limits the time insurance carriers have to approve a procedure. Right now they have up to 30 days, and you have patients sometimes deteriorating in hospitals or in home health conditions or in private institutional medical places because of a lack of approval from insurance companies. And sometimes they're really, really important procedures. And I think insurance carriers have been allowed to get away with a whole lot. We have a lot of support on both sides of the aisle and a lot from our medical community across the country. And I think it's a bill that has a direct positive impact on people's health, and especially seniors that are waiting for procedures to be approved by their insurance companies. These are all bills that have bipartisan support and bicameral support. They have a real legitimate shot of getting past the finish line. and that's part of what we continue to push. We are also highlighting some of the bipartisan infrastructure bill that was passed under Biden. As you know, recently we celebrated getting the permits for our LNG facility at the Port of Brownsville. This will be transformative for South Texas and our economy and economic growth that you're going to see here. And I say, you know, everything begins at the ports of entry to see the fostering of a lot of new growth in our economy. So we're real happy. We were able to secure $68 million for the deepening of the port, and now we're receiving resources, approvals for a $20 billion investment, and we're going to continue to work on that until it becomes a reality for our region. But it's already, there's already shovels in the ground and folks working. So I think we're going to see that project moving really fast, and it's going to be a really positive impact for our region. Some of the other projects that I'd like to highlight, these were earmarks that I got for our congressional district. And Mayor, you may not know some of these, but you may know some. We got $2 million, $1.4 million for drainage of 5th and 7th drain system in Harlingen. We're redoing the VFW here in Harlingen, so we got an $850 million fund to redo VFWs. Those who have followed my time in Congress, I've done several VFWs. I'm doing VFWs and I'm doing walk and bike trails in low-income communities with my earmarks, and we've turned some of these VFWs into fantastic community centers. Most of them haven't been touched because of lack of funding since World War II, but it's a great place where our veterans gather, and sometimes we have community events, and I'm going to the ones that are really in dire need and trying to rebuild them and remodel them and make them a nice place for the communities to enjoy and for our veterans to have. We got just short of $2 million for equipment for our Sheriff's Department, communication system for Harlingen PD, and the Brownsville PD. We got $3.5 million for the Nolana expansion, which is in eastern Hidalgo County. We got a retention pond for Ed Couch, which in areas that have some tough flooding in neighborhoods. So we got almost $1 million for them. We did the same for Combs for their lateral drain. We got an extra earmark for maintenance around the Port of Brownsville for $1 million. And something that's really important and near and dear to my heart is taking care of the Resaca system here in Cameron County. I think it's something that makes Cameron unique and beautiful. So we got $2 million for Brownsville's Resaca system, so they can continue to maintain and dredge and clean the silt and continue to keep it a place that people can enjoy in the communities. We were able to secure for STC $1 million for their nursing program. As you know, we continue to have a nursing shortage in our communities, and we're trying to train more nurses in a more expedited way. We're also starting a new program where we're going to be giving apprenticeships to nurses, where they begin working in hospitals and working towards a degree while they're at hospitals and staffing hospitals. Right now, most of the hospitals in South Texas are understaffed, and there's a nursing shortage. And at the end of the day, it does have a direct impact on outcomes. So we've got $1 million for San Benito's water treatment plant. That came right out of the Inflation Reduction Act. That now we're starting to see tangible results in our community. Not to mention that seniors that are on Medicare and are on insulin are capped at $35 and never have to spend more than $2,000 in a year for all their medical needs. So that's something that I think we're really proud of, and that's something that was done under this administration, and we want to make sure and highlight it. And lastly, as we go into this new session after this summer break, we're all trying to avoid a government shutdown, and I think the biggest issue that is important to me, and something that I'm going to make sure and continue to fight for, is Social Security and Medicare and Veterans Care. Those three programs cannot be cut in any way, and there's some proposals to privatize, and there's some proposals to raise age limits, and we oppose both of them. There's a proposal right now trying to raise the age of Medicare from 65 to 67, and for Social Security from 65 to 69. And that would be tragic. It would impact a lot of people across the country, and we need to make sure that those programs are never touched in negotiation when we're talking about our budget.